Hello everyone and welcome to our second look back at all the games that came out in 2017, or at least all the ones that I played. On our first episode we just talked specifically about fighting games, and today we are going to talk specifically about Nintendo games. Now, I decided to give Nintendo their own little section, their own video, for two reasons. One, it's because I feel like Nintendo earned that this year. I feel like with the Switch coming out and all the lessons that it seems like Nintendo learned, yeah, we have to stop and just kind of applaud what they did this year. I mean, it can't be stressed enough what a massive shift Nintendo made this year. They were going down, and don't get me wrong, I'm not coming in here and saying, oh, it was the end of Nintendo, because Nintendo had enough money in their coffers that they could not make any more games for 5 years straight before they had to start laying people off. Not even go out of business, but just start making cutbacks. Nintendo had a decent chunk of cash in reserves, but yeah, it was not looking good for them. And man, they just turned it all around this year. So yeah, I want to make one episode just specifically talking about the games that came out on Nintendo that I played, and also just talking about the Switch itself. I wanted to cover that more earlier this year, and the whole point of these little video game podcast episodes that I'm doing is just simply so that I can talk about the stuff that I didn't get a chance to talk about earlier in 2017. But the other reason why I'm giving Nintendo their own episode is because, let's be real, Nintendo, for anybody who knows how YouTube works, Nintendo is like the one company out there that does not want you sharing videos of their stuff on YouTube. They will come in and copyright claim any footage that you use of their games. So I figure if I'm going to make one of these and not make any money off of it, I might as well just rip that band-aid off all at once and just talk about all the Nintendo games in one video. But alright, let's go ahead and just talk about the Switch itself. As I said, it is stunning to me how well this works. Not just from a business perspective, but also just from a functionality perspective. Just in terms of the fact that, oh my gosh, they actually made a machine that did the thing they said it would do. Because don't get me wrong, when the Wii came out, it was impressive for the time, but they still kept talking about the motion controls in there like they were this breakthrough next stage of technology, and in many ways it was, but that little Wiimote and nunchuck never worked the way that they described it as working. It worked good. It did motion controls better than anybody else out there had ever been able to achieve that. But, you know, it was still just a big clumsy thing you were fiddling around your hand, and you could never actually get it to calibrate onto your screen as well as you wanted it to. But it worked pretty darn well for the time. But then when the Wii U came out, yeah, it was like, okay, you can pick it up and take it on the go as long as you're within a couple feet of the actual game station itself. And yeah, you know, you still need the Wii U stick for a couple of these games, and well, the graphics aren't all that great, and okay, so there are some problems, we admit that. But the Switch, when I looked at that, and I was like, okay, so it's a thing that it's got the motion controls again, which, you know, they don't work quite as well as people say they're going to. But now you're talking about how you're going to be able to feel even the most subtle rumbles in there and be able to tell them apart from other rumbles, so that it actually plays a larger part in the gameplay. And the most impressive thing will be that you can actually just pick it up out of its little port, and then wham bam, you're good. You're on the go. You can pick up right where you left off on screen. I was looking at that like, yeah, I'm sure it'll do something kind of like that, but it's not going to be as cool as what they're saying it'll be. I cannot believe how well this thing works. It works exactly how they said it would work. The motion controls, yeah, I mean, sometimes they get real wobbly, but I think that's just how motion controls are always going to be, until we get to the point where we have like virtual reality glasses on in combination with motion control gloves. Not sticks, but like actual gloves that can like measure your fingers specifically, where you can actually reach out and grab the things in the game. Yeah, they're never going to be able to work that perfectly, but even though some games like Breath of the Wild made me frustrated with its motion control stuff, there are other games out there like ARMS where the motion control works exactly how they said it would, and I'm just honestly shocked at that. But also, when they were bragging about the whole little rumble thing, like they had that demonstration where they had someone up there and going, oh look, it feels like there is a piece of ice in this glass, and the little remote is the glass. oh, now it feels like there are 2 pieces of ice in here. The subtlety in these rumbles is going to be so precise, you'll be able to tell how many pieces of ice are in this glass. I just looked at that like, what the heck is that going to be? Why do I care? What the heck is, why? Why is that a thing you're doing? And then I played some of these games and I felt how insanely precise some of the rumbles in these games are. And I realized, oh shoot, this actually does add a whole other level to this. I kept mentioning that virtual reality is never really going to hit where we want it to be until you can get to a point where you have things in your hand that makes it feel like your hands are actually inside the game. Yeah, the subtlety in the rumbles on the little controllers on the Switch are so precise. I honestly look at that like, oh, this is the next step. You can, if you turn this into a glove of some kind, this is what we need for virtual reality. You're doing it. And of course, the biggest thing that I have to talk about is the fact that the whole portability aspect of the Switch is exactly what they said it would be. I mean, I know that this thing has been out for 9 months at this point, so by now it's like, yeah, we all know it works the way it does. Why are you still gushing about this? Because I've seen this stuff fail so many times that I'm still honestly shocked. I can just put the controllers on the console, lift the console up, that's it, the end. Nothing else to it. I remember when we were installing this thing, I was like, okay, this is going to take like 20 minutes to just like calibrate and like hook up with the machine, and then if I go too far away, it's not going to work. And no, that was it. I put the controllers down, done, over with. Walk out my front door with my Switch. I'm still just honestly shocked they were able to put this together. And the main reason why I'm so shocked is because, yeah, the Switch was a last-ditch effort to try and turn their company around. The Wii U was plummeting. They just flat out stopped making games. They abandoned the Wii U and said, yeah, it's done. It's over with. We have to get this new thing out there now. And I kept looking at it like, this is going to be a rush job. It is not going to work the way that they say it's going to work. It's not going to be as good as they want it to be. Man, it feels like this thing was in development for a decade before this came out. It works exactly like they said it would. And they did that on a rush job. That's incredible to me that Nintendo is able to pull something like that off. But the big thing about the Switch that has me so excited and so stunned that Nintendo really has turned itself around is not just the fact that the console works the way that we all wanted it to and the way that they said it would. It's the fact that, hey man, the Wii was not a bad console. The Wii U was not a bad console. The problem with those consoles was the fact that there just weren't games. Nintendo, as I said, has enough money in reserves that they could not make a game for 5 years and still be okay. It almost felt like they were testing that theory. Like they wanted to say, okay, how long can we go without actually doing anything before we actually start to suffer? Because the Wii U, listen man, there's tons of possibilities for having a game where you have a touchscreen right there in the middle. There's so many things you could do with that, and they didn't do anything with that. They just let it sit there. They didn't go up to third parties and ask them to make games for them. And with their own stuff, they were like, well, I guess we can just put out another Mario game. And that's about it. There you go. Enjoy. Maybe we'll make a Star Fox every now and again. Who can say? We'll get to that if we feel like it. But that's the problem. I mean, all you have to do is just look at the Xbox and the sales on the Xbox compared to the PlayStation and just realize, yeah, man, it doesn't matter how powerful your console is. It doesn't matter what cool things it can do. It doesn't matter how many features it has. What matters is games. What games came out on your console? What is the thing that if I buy this console, I will be able to use it for? And yeah, you know, Xbox, pretty much every single thing on Xbox is on other consoles as well. And even the stuff that is an exclusive to Xbox, you can get on Steam. I mean, I really wanted to play Cuphead this year, but I don't have an Xbox. Guess what? I just bought it on Steam. Done. Pretty much everything that Xbox has, you can get somewhere else. And that's one of the reasons why its sales have been suffering so much. And one of the reasons why PlayStation's been doing so well is, yeah, they've been dominating with their exclusives. Nintendo came in here and said, oh, we'll get in on that game as well. And the great thing about Nintendo is that they didn't really have to go up to third parties. I mean, they do eventually, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But they have so many franchises and so much stuff that they can pull from. And yet for the longest time, it was just, here's a Mario game. Here's another Mario game. maybe we'll make something other than Mario, but not today, because there's another Mario game. And then when they did make something new, it was like, all right, well, okay, Star Fox, yeah, you're making new Star Fox. Ooh, this Star Fox is bad. But, you know, they made Splatoon, so I gave them credit for that. That was a new franchise. That was something fresh. But with the Switch, okay, already, Splatoon 2, okay, good job. Super Mario, oh, we got a new Super Mario game? Breath of the Wild, holy cow. New Mario, new Zelda, new Splatoon, all in the same year. And then they created ARMS. They created a brand new IP for this console. Way to go, Nintendo! And that's not even like the half of all the stuff that they had come out this year for this console. And like I said, this console, it was a rush job. They had to get it out there fast. And yet, even being a rush job, something they had to plan for at the last second, they were still able to put out there more games this year for the Switch than they did than probably, I don't know, the last 3 years of the Wii U's lifespan. Wait, that can't be right. I don't think the Wii U even lasted 3 years. I'm joking, I know it lasted more than 3 years, but you get my point. And yeah, there were not that many third-party games for the Switch this year, and the ones that did come out, yeah, they weren't all that great. But I was reading a story about how when the Switch came out, all these third-party companies looked at it and went, oh, it's Nintendo trying another new thing. Oh, it's another Wii U. Okay, we'll tell them we'll make something for that eventually, someday in the future. And then the Switch exploded because Nintendo kept putting that much support behind it and kept making that many games for it and kept really trying to knock down third parties' doors and say, give us something to put on this system. That now all those third parties out there, even the ones who didn't agree to make games for the Switch, are looking at the Switch like, we need to get something on this console now. We screwed up by not signing up to make games for this console. And if you look at the stuff that's coming out next year, I mean, they've already planned Bayonetta 3 as an exclusive for this console. Yeah, you're doing it, Nintendo. I have no further notes to give. Everything that we kept saying that you need to do for your system, you're doing it. You're making brand new IPs. Good, great. We were kind of getting tired of just Mario. You're bringing back some of your old IPs that you hadn't touched in forever. We've got a brand new Metroid Prime game coming back. Great. It's like you're listening to the fans out there who kept asking you to make new games of the old IPs that they love that you weren't even touching. And now you're actually going to third parties and asking them for stuff, and you're not afraid to throw that money around to convince them to give you games just for your system. But you're doing so well because you did all this stuff that now you don't even have to throw your money around. People actually legitimately want to make games for your system. So, okay, as I said, I just wanted to start off by just flat out praising Nintendo and saying they did a damn fine job this year. But now let's actually get into the games that I played on the Switch this year. I'm going to go through these a little bit quicker than I did with the fighting games, simply because we only talked about 4 fighting games and that episode was 50 minutes long. And yeah, I've got about 7 or 8 Nintendo games to talk about. I'm not making a 2-hour-long Nintendo praise-a-thon. First game I'm going to talk about is Super Mario Odyssey, because, listen, if you guys have been following this channel, you know I was looking forward to Persona 5 for years. 8 years to be exact. Ever since I finished Persona 4, I have been waiting for that game to come out, and it didn't disappoint. I love Persona 5, and I was like, this is it. Game of the year. There is no way anyone else can even come close to being my game of the year. And a freaking Mario game might just take it over. I'm not saying this to keep you in suspense and be like, oh, which one is actually going to be my game of the year? You're going to have to tune in to find out. I'm saying this because I'm actually that shocked. I'm being serious. Super Mario Odyssey, it was a very nice nostalgia trip. Yes, it was wonderful. It did so many heart-touching things, like the New Donk City stage. I mean, heck, we all know that New Donk City song and everything with Pauline in there, and that whole sequence in which you're running through and you're playing through Donkey Kong the first time. That's great. It's a nice little heart-touching, like, reminds you of the old days of Nintendo. But they've also got stuff in there like Captain Toad just popping up every now and again, and the Captain Toad theme plays whenever he pops up, and you had to search and find him on every stage. That was a great little bit of nostalgia. There's so many other things. Oh, geez, I didn't even talk about the Super Mario 64 stuff that comes at the end of that game. Yeah, there's so much stuff in there that just celebrates the history of Mario, but I've been saying for the longest time, I need some new stuff from Mario. You can't just keep going, hey man, it's like the old Mario. It's like, well, one of the things that made the old Mario so cool was that at the time it was new. You gotta give me some new stuff. And I've been saying that about so many of Nintendo's franchises. And holy cow, almost everything else aside from the little nostalgia trips here and there is brand new in this game. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this simply because I already did a review of this game and I already pretty much covered everything that I wanted to say about all the new aspects of this game in that review, but just to go over it again, Cappy. The fact that there's no fire flowers, no mushrooms that make you grow. Cappy is your only one ability that you get in this game, but you can then use Cappy to get brand new abilities with every single monster that you throw the hat onto. And I thought that was an ingenious way of changing up the Super Mario formula, of actually creating something new in there. And I also love that it wasn't just the same stages over and over again. Every single world that you went to in there felt brand new. Even the desert stage that you did go through, there was a ton of new stuff in there, like all the little Day of the Dead guys in there. They were completely brand new. And you had the Jaxie guy that you ran around on there. That was completely brand new. But then you go to things like New Donk City. I've never seen anything like that in a Mario game before. You go to the freaking moon. I love that even though, yes, you're fighting Bowser all over again, they created some brand new villains for you to go up against. It wasn't just Bowser Jr. messing with you over and over again until you got to Bowser at the end. I actually really like those little rabbit villains that they created. I think they've got really unique looks, and I can actually see those guys popping up in other Mario games, like the Mario Golf and Tennis, and even in Super Smash Bros. And also the changes that they made to the coins in this game. Just the fact that coins are no longer just a thing that you hold on to for life and you have to collect 100 of them for your life. No, I love that coins are actually used as currency in this game. It gives you a reason to collect all those coins, because one of the problems I always had with the Mario games was, alright, I gotta collect 100 coins in order to get another life. But man, 100 is a lot of coins that I have to collect. That is gonna take a while to get that many. And all I get is just an extra life in here. Can't I just find like some level with a really easy green mushroom to get and just keep going back to that level over and over again? This is so much work just for one life, just for something that you can then lose. I think that's what my problem was. The fact that I had to work that hard to get a 1-up, and then you can lose that 1-up instantly. That was always something that just kind of like deflated me in the Mario games. Just seeing something that I worked that hard for go away. In this, you use the coins for currency to get yourself new costumes and decorations for your spaceship, and I just love that because A, I love cosmetic stuff in video games. I know it doesn't actually change the gameplay, but it does show love and attention from the developers. The fact that the developers actually would work that hard on something that isn't mandatory to the gameplay, it's extra stuff. It just shows that they really wanted to make this thing fun. They wanted to make it something that kept giving you rewards. So in this, you work that hard for something that you can't lose, and it does actually make you want to keep looking for this stuff. The fact that you know that, okay, if I just keep working at this a little bit more, I'm going to get more coins, and I'll eventually be able to get that pirate costume that I was wanting so much. Same thing goes for all the moons in here. Yes, there are tons of moons, but they never made them that hard to find. Just enough of a challenge that I would keep working to earn a moon, but I would never get frustrated and just go like, oh, screw this, it's not worth it. No, every single moon in here was worth finding. It was worth getting. It never felt like I was putting in way too much effort for just one tiny little thing. But again, I love that the moons are used as a currency of sorts. They are used to A, power up your ship, but also the more moons that you get, the more costumes that you can unlock in the post-game. And that is, to me, what made this game so addictive. Because in all the other Mario games, yes, if you got 100%, you got every single thing in the game, you would get a prize. But you wouldn't really get anything up until that point. And I would always look at all the stuff that you would have to collect in the Mario game and be like, yeah, is it worth doing all that just to get one thing at the end? Here, it's like, is it worth getting 5 more moons so that I can get this new costume? Yes. Yes, it is worth that. Okay, I've got those 5 more moons, and I've got that costume. Oh, but if I get 10 more moons, then I get the next costume. Is it worth getting 10 more moons? Yes, it is. 10 more moons, that's easy. I can do that no problem. And I love that at the end of this game, they just give you so much more. I had a coworker who had been playing this game, and he hadn't finished it simply because he was enjoying it so much, he didn't want it to end. He didn't want the game to actually be over. And I told him, dude, This game doubles in size after you defeat Bowser. There is so much more to do in this game after you finish it. And he was just lit up. Like, his eyes just started sparkling at the idea of, oh my god, they doubled the moons? There's that many more to go. Oh, I'm gonna go home and defeat this game tonight so that I can keep playing this game. So yeah, the fact that they were able to spice up the Mario formula that much, but at the same time, make it feel like a Mario game. That's the incredible thing to me. They changed so much around it, but it didn't feel like some new game. It felt like an updated Mario. It felt like a Mario that finally took advantage of how video games have changed over the years. Yeah, that just blew me away. That was ingenious, all the little changes that they made to this game. But also, I just love the little stuff that they did with the story in here. You know, we keep mentioning the New Donk City stage as, oh my gosh, that is such a great moment in the history of Mario. How this game ends is a stunning moment for Mario. The fact that at the end of this, you've been using your cap to take over these villains all throughout, and that's how you've been able to fight. At the end of this, you fight Bowser one last time, and then you knock him out, but everything around you is coming down. It's you and Princess Peach and an unconscious Bowser. How are you going to get out there? And then you throw your hat on Bowser, you take him over, and for the first time in a Mario game, well, okay, probably not the first time. There's been multiple times in which you've been able to take control of Bowser, I guess, but you know what I mean. At the end of this, Mario becomes Bowser. That's something new, and it did feel like, oh, this is kind of a high point in the history of Mario. And then you get to take all that destructive power that Bowser has, that destructive energy that you've been fighting against for 30 freaking years now, and you use that to save the day. That is an amazing moment in this game. I love that so much. And it had some weird J-poppy song coming on as you were escaping. And I should point to that and be like, yeah, but that doesn't feel like Mario. But it just felt so darn fun. I was like, I don't care. I don't care if it doesn't feel like Mario. It felt fun, which is what Mario is supposed to feel like. So I'm giving it a pass. And if you listen to our review, I said that the only reason why I wasn't thinking about giving this a 10 out of 10 was because to be a 10 out of 10, you gotta do something that really gives me the emotional gut punch. And there's lots of moments in there like that. However, this entire game really felt like it was leading up to the marriage of Mario and Peach. Maybe that's just me, maybe I was reading too much into it, but you know, this whole big wedding was getting planned, they were getting the ring, they were getting the cake, they were getting all these stuff for the location, everything was set up, all the characters from the game were there at the end of this. You, as Mario, in a big white tux, went up there to save the day, Princess Peach was in the bridal gown, and it really made me go, wow, this whole game, it was kind of like a look back at the history of Mario, all the incredible stuff that had happened with Mario throughout all this time, and we've always had this romance between Peach and Mario, and now you've been playing a big wedding, and you're both in the correct outfits for it. It really feels like at the end of this, Mario should get down on one knee and propose, and then they just get married there, and that's how this game ends. And I would totally be cool with that because, as I said, this is one of the best Mario games I've ever played, and it was also a massive love letter to the history of Mario. You don't do a massive love letter to the history of something unless you're going to change something big there at the end. I was totally ready to see that happen at the end of this game, and then no, this kind of playing up for a gag that, oh, Mario looked like he was going to propose, but then Bowser jumped in there at the end, and then Peach got mad at both of them. I was like, man, it almost made me mad at the end that didn't happen. But even that wasn't enough to like ruin everything else amazing in this game. Also, I should talk real quickly about the battle with the Lord of Lightning, that giant dragon that comes out of nowhere. I love that moment because he so felt out of place. He felt like he did not belong in this game at all. And the world that you get crash landed onto and you have to then go and fight the Lord of Lightning on, it felt like something out of Dark Souls. And that doesn't feel like it should be something in a Mario game, but that was the point of it. The point of that villain was to make you look at the Lord of Lightning and go, what the heck is that doing here? That doesn't belong in this game. And they achieved that. They nailed that feeling. So even the one thing in this game that didn't fit was there to not fit. They pulled that off wonderfully, I thought. And also, in a weird way, I felt like that moment was kind of symbolic in this game. Because video games have changed so much since Mario came around. And this to me was the Mario game that kind of felt like it was coming in there and saying, hey, we can still keep up. Even if video games have changed, Mario is still here to stay. Mario is still going to be the champ of video games. And to have Mario then basically go up against a Dark Souls boss on this Dark Souls looking planet and have him then beat the boss and win in his old-fashioned Mario ways, I was like, that's actually, I don't even know if they meant for that message to be in this game, but that's how I'm reading it, and I kind of want to cheer Nintendo on. But okay, these next couple of games I'm going to race through pretty darn quick. First one is ARMS. I'm racing through this one simply because in our fighting games discussion, we already talked about ARMS, but I just want to come in here again and say, I am just stunned at how much love Nintendo has given this game, because when it came out, I was like, yeah, it's fun, but it feels really light. It feels like it doesn't have enough content, and then Nintendo came in there, and they gave us all these new free DLC characters. I repeat, free DLC characters. The stuff that you want fighting games to give you, and they don't. Nintendo just kept giving you free characters for this, and they also kept giving you a free stage with every single character. But then they went in there and they also gave you a brand new achievement system, which makes you want to go back and replay through stuff in this game. And also, I had not tested this out the first time that I played it, but when I went to go and capture footage of this for the last video that I did, I asked my wife to play along with me so that we could test out the 2-player mode. And the 2-player mode, when you turn the controls sideways and you're not using the motion controls on, at first it is a little bit jarring. It took us a little while to actually learn how to use them, but by about the third match, I was actually surprised at how well those little controllers turned sideways actually still work as controllers. It actually worked perfectly, so that's another thing that I can applaud the Switch for. But since we had 2 people playing together, we were able to go online and go onto the Party Crash mode, where it's just something for groups to play with other groups online. And sometimes it would be something where you were fighting the other people, or you'd be playing volleyball against the other team, or you would be having to team up against the big, weird robot head guy, and you would all have to fight together. I love this mode. This mode is great. And as I said, this game came out about, 8 months ago, and nobody really talks about that all that much. So I was like, yeah, we're probably not going to find any matches online. We found matches, no problem. So yeah, I just wanted to come in here one more time and just say, there is so much to this game that was not there when it came out. Nintendo just kept showing this thing love, and I'm honestly just shocked. This probably won't make it into my top 10, but it's getting the biggest of honorable mentions simply because I am stunned whenever a video game puts out there something and they're like, yeah, we know that there isn't much here now. We're gonna build something on this, and you're not going to have to pay for it. You're not gonna have to pay for stuff until this game feels complete. We're going to just give it to you for free until it feels complete. I mentioned in that last video that we made for fighting games that they gave us 4 free DLC characters. Between the time when I went in there and recorded the audio for that, and when I started editing it and had to capture footage for that video, they released a 5th DLC character for free. They just keep giving you stuff in this game. Man, Nintendo, way to go. Next up, speaking of Nintendo's new IPs, Splatoon 2 came out this year, and I never actually played Splatoon 1, just because it didn't really seem like my type of game, but my wife ended up really loving it, so we decided to buy Splatoon 2. But before making this video, I thought, you know what, I should test it out some, and I played through it for a couple hours, and yeah, it is a fun game, but I stand by my earlier assessment that it's just not really my type of thing. But I do love the fact that Nintendo basically created a team multiplayer game that isn't like your typical team multiplayer things. And I love that there is no voice comm in there. A lot of people have complained that's like, well, yeah, but now you can't strategize with your other people. And I just keep thinking, dude, this is a game made for all ages. Have you ever gotten on the voice comm on these team multiplayer online games? It's never safe for all ages. And it's just super salty people just being ticked off and swearing and going nuts. Man, I love that there is no voice comm in this game. I love that it's just, hey man, just go out there and just use your eyes and ears and just try and figure out how to help your team the best that you can. And I do really like the new host of the channel that they created. I know that Callie and Mari were very iconic characters to add to the Nintendo roster that they created last time. But yeah, I think the new ones that they created this time actually still stick out as well. I love the little exchanges they have between them. I love that Pearl is just this little egotistical little ball of dynamite, and the DJ is sitting over there like, yeah, I don't think that's right, Pearl. It's a great little dynamic that they have going on. Also, I will say, the boss fights that you have in this game, in your little story mode, those things are insanely creative. I mean, the first one you go up against is just a walking bread oven, and the bread is spraying jam everywhere, and you have to then paint the bread when it comes out and use that to climb up on. That's crazy creative. Next up, the biggest surprise of the year for me was Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. When that got announced, I looked at like, well, that's certainly an odd combination. And rather than being, I don't know, a party game, since that's what some of the previous Rabbid games were, and that's what a lot of the Mario games are, or just being a platformer, since that seems to make sense, since the Rabbids sprang out of Rayman, which was a platformer, and Mario invented platforming. Yeah, they decided to make it an XCOM-style turn-based strategy shooter game. Okay, Mario's got like a Mega Man Buster now, and the Rabbids have them too, and who thought this was a good idea? Whoever thought it was a good idea, give that person a raise, because wow, this game worked so much better than I thought. Yes, I will admit, it's basically baby's first XCOM, but here's the thing, XCOM is really darn fun, and even though at first, the combat in this game is a simpler version of XCOM, it's just, okay, you stand behind stuff and you shoot, bam, you're done. When they start giving you the status effects for your gun, it really does change it around. It's like, okay, well, now I have a chance of this happening, and then that can push this guy over there, or it can stop them in their tracks, which will keep them from coming over here and attacking me, and will leave them wide open. And then you start unlocking new abilities for your characters. Like, okay, now I have an oversight ability, so if I station my guy here, even if he can't fire, I know that guy is going to move from this location to this location, and then I can use the oversight ability, so that way I can attack him when he moves. Oh no, they've now used their oversight ability, so I can't move my guy, but wait, I have a mine device that can move around for me, and that can then take the hit, and it will make my character safe. There's so much stuff to think about, but then they introduce stuff in there like dashing into characters so you can get a double attack on character, but then you can do double dashes with some characters so you can move from one character to the next and then fire back on them. Or the craziest thing of all, the way that you can then jump from one character. You can dash into a character, go over to your character, then jump off that character, then land on an opponent character. There's so much to do in this game. I remember there was one match in which I had Mario go into his oversight mode, so that way he would fire on any character that moved. I then had Luigi with a weapon that had a pushback ability, which means it could launch them into the air. I had Luigi fire on a character and then launch that character into the air, and that counted as that character moving. So then Mario, using his oversight ability, shot that character in the air. It was crazy to me, all the stuff that was being pulled off in this game. So yeah, the gameplay in Mario and Rabbids is actually surprisingly amazing. Like, there is stuff that I would set up, and when I actually saw it all playing out, I was just standing there speechless at, oh my god, I didn't think that would actually work, but it did work, and it looked gorgeous to watch. But the thing that surprises me even more about this game, it's really darn funny. I have not experienced anything with the Rabbids in probably a decade at this point. I can't even remember the last time I played a Rabbids game, or even when the last time a Rabbids game came out. But I remember thinking, oh, okay, they're kind of funny, but then I got sick of them pretty fast. But ever since then, we've had a lot of unofficial Rabbid ripoffs come out. And I don't mean in video games, I mean in movies. There came a moment in which I was watching the Rabbids just mess around. They were just banging on stuff, destroying stuff, and just screaming out, and then talking in gibberish. And all of a sudden it hit me, oh my god, they're the minions from Despicable Me. And I'm not saying the minions ripped off the Rabbids, because the Rabbids did come first. I actually kind of cracked myself up during this game, thinking to myself, you know, if the Rabbids had never existed before this, and the Rabbids came out now, everyone would point at them as minion ripoffs. But nobody's pointing at the minions and saying that they're Rabbid ripoffs. I'm not going to say that either, simply because I feel like the minions are so much more famous than the Rabbids. I don't honestly think that the people who made the minions looked at the Rabbids and said, oh, that's it, let's just make them smaller and rounder and look like chicken nuggets. But I swear, the personality and the way that the Rabbids act matched up so much with the minions, it was shocking to me that I've never heard anyone make this comparison before. And I kept thinking to myself, you know what? That might actually be why the Rabbids kind of died down. Why we haven't heard from them in forever, because the minions came out. And I think that Ubisoft might have looked at the Rabbids then and went, the minions are so much more famous than the Rabbids that if we put out anything else with the Rabbids, people will just think that we're ripping off the minions. And then every other children's film in Hollywood then proceeded to rip off the minions. Almost every animated children's feature of the past 5 years has had some little tiny group of characters that are meant to kind of be the minion type in there. And it feels like, yeah, that's probably the reason why I wanted nothing to do with the Rabbids. We've just been getting drowned in these clone of the Rabbids for the past 5-6 years. And when this game came in here, I looked at them and went, oh, I remember why I liked the Rabbids in the first place. They're actually kind of cracking me up in here. Like all their little characteristics and all their little mannerisms, like the fact that they like clap along when something good is happening. And I know that doesn't sound like anything big, but they do it in just the most adorable, goofy, stupid way. Or the weird personalities that all of the Rabbid Mario merger characters have. Like the fact that Mario Rabbid, I don't know what you want to call him, Rabbid Mario, basically the Rabbid version of Mario. I love that he is just this big, braggadocious, tough guy. Like the kind of personality you would expect to see on someone with a mustache that big and thick. Like every time he levels up, he kisses his own muscles. I don't know why, but that just cracked me up. Or Peach. Rabbid Peach cracked me up all throughout this game. I saw in all those trailers her pulling out her phone and constantly taking selfies of herself. Like every picture you see of Rabbid Peach is just her taking a selfie of herself. And I thought, that's gonna get old so fast. It never did make me laugh in this game. There's a moment when you defeat the first boss and the first boss is falling to his doom, and then the next shot is just Rabbid Peach taking selfies of herself as he falls in the background, and it's just one shot after another of that boss falling in slow motion as Rabbid Peach makes different expressions. I can't explain it. I don't know why that made me laugh, but it really did. So yeah, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, for having gameplay that worked so much better than I possibly could have imagined, and being so much funnier and more charming than I possibly could have imagined. This is the game that did the impossible this year. This game succeeded in every way that I thought it was going to fail. So again, kudos to you, Nintendo and Ubisoft. I don't know who pulled more weight on this project, but you guys came together and made something great. In fact, Ubisoft, listen, I know you're not doing anything else with the Rabbids. Just hand them over to Nintendo. I mean, they might not make another Rabbids game, but I'd actually kind of dig seeing the Rabbids pop up in a party game, have them be in the next Smash Brothers. I'd be fine with that. Although I will say there is one problem that I did have with the game, which is just walking around, which sounds like that should be a big problem if it doesn't feel good to walk around in the game. But it's something that you had to constantly train your eye to look at, because you have all your characters lined up in a row, and you're controlling them as they move around in one line. And Mario was always the front character, and I kept always looking at Mario like I was controlling him. You're not. You're controlling this little tiny Roomba-style rabbit robot, and that's the one in front of Mario. So I kept looking at Mario like I was controlling him, but instead I'm controlling the thing in front of Mario, which means that Mario would always turn right after I told him to turn, and he would always go in different directions than I wanted him to. And it's because I had to keep telling myself, don't look at Mario. Look at the tiny Roomba robot. So it is partly my own fault for not looking at that tiny Roomba robot, but also at the same time, the game developers really should have realized, yeah man, if Mario is going to be forced to be in our party, and he's 6 times larger than the thing I'm controlling, just make Mario the thing I'm controlling. Alright, we're getting close to the end here, and I'm going to actually skip over one of the games I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about Fire Emblem Warriors. I started playing that game, and I went, you know what? I'm enjoying this. It feels just like Legend of Zelda Warriors. That was a ton of fun, but I've got other games to play to try and figure out my top 10 of the year list, and even though I'm enjoying this game, I know it's not going on my top 10, so I will save it until I'm done with all these other games that I have to cram for. But, you know, so far I have been enjoying the game, and I will also go ahead and say I kind of dig that you have other characters from Fire Emblem showing up in this game, because when I saw the characters that they chose that I could play as, I thought, oh, it's basically just the standard basic characters that you can play as. You know, no real surprises in there. I was kind of hoping for something more in there. But the characters I was hoping for, they do pop up in this game as little, like, side characters who you can assist you. So that's actually kind of fun. But okay, I've been very, very positive on all these games. Let's go ahead and get into the one that I actually... I'm not going to say I hated it. I'm just going to say I have some problems with it, and I kind of hated how much time I put into the game. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Again, I didn't hate this game. I know that a lot of people out there are absolutely loving it, but there's some other people out there who are absolutely hating it. I understand everybody's point of view on this one, because for almost every single thing in this game that I liked, there was something else that I didn't like. And I feel like the stuff that people didn't like is the stuff that you notice right away in this game. You have to kind of dig for the good stuff, but the good stuff actually is there. And I feel like the best way that I can sum this game up is the character designs. I actually like some of the character designs in here. Everybody's been talking about the negative character designs, but no, there's actually some in here who I actually think are well designed. I actually think that they do have really cool, unique looks to them. But the ones who are poorly designed, holy cow. Same thing goes for the voice acting. There are some voice actors in here who get it. They actually nail the characters they're supposed to be. They actually do a wonderful job. But the ones who are bad, wow, do they stand out like a sore thumb. There's stuff like that in here for pretty much everything in this game. Every single part of this game, there's something in here that I like. And then there's other stuff in here that I really dislike. Like the gameplay. I love this idea that you have basically an assistance persona that comes in there and powers you up, and you can find core crystals, and then you can awaken new little persona guys that can help you out. I know they're not personas, but listen, I'm a persona junkie. That's what I'm going to be calling them. I love all the different ways that you can level them up. I love all the little skill charts that you get, and I love that the way that you level up your skill chart isn't by just investing experience points into them, although you can do that with some characters, but for other characters, the way that you level up their skills is just by doing a certain number of things a certain number of times. I think that's really kind of ingenious. I love that style of gameplay. However, at the same time, I think the combat system in here is really damn frustrating. Just going up to a random character and initiating battle with them, okay, that's fine. I'm totally cool with that. But you don't get to attack. You just go up to them, draw your sword, and then your character just auto-attacks. So you're just kind of standing there, just waiting for all of your little meters to build up, and then you can just press a button to activate their next special move, and then you just wait for the next meter to level up. And if one of your characters is getting attacked, you kind of just have to wait for the healer in your party to then heal you, because there's no other way to really heal yourself in here, except that you can then attack them with an ability that does give you health potions, and that's actually kind of a cool idea. However, if your character is getting wailed on, you kind of might need a full heal at that moment, and there's no real way to do that in battle, and that can get incredibly frustrating. So again, it's like, okay, there's one cool thing, there's one really frustrating thing about this. And there's a way in which you can link attacks into different attacks in order to create some brand new attack. But I played this game for 7 hours, and I still had no idea how you actually did that. A little map, every time that you did a special move, would pop up in the top right corner, and it would say, okay, if you then take an earth-based ability, and then follow it up with a wind-based ability, and then follow it up with another based ability, like another earth-based ability, it can lead into this special move. And I never pulled one of those things off because I couldn't control my other characters in my party. So if they then did a rock type move, I then followed up with a wind type move, and then I would just sit there like, all right, I guess I now just hope he does another earth-based move right now, because there's nothing really I can do in this moment. And I'm sure I'm missing something. I'm sure the comments are going to be filled with people saying that's not how you do it. You actually do it this way, because it has to be done a different way. The way that I thought that you did in here is so just up to chance that it doesn't work at all. So there has to be something that I'm missing, but the tutorials in here are just overwhelming. Listen, I know it's a JRPG, and I know that JRPGs are loaded with tutorials. That's just part of the game. I understand that. I also understand you're going to get tutorials all the way up until hour 2 or hour 3 of the game. I understand. Again, that's just part of JRPGs, and guess what? I like JRPGs. I can accept that. I'm okay with crazy tutorials and taking a long ass time to learn everything. I get that. But I played this thing for 7 hours and they were still going, oh, here's a brand new part of the battle system. Not something new that I was encountering, something I had been running into for the past 7 hours. They were like, all right, I guess it's a good time for us to explain this to you. I was like, no, if this is part of the thing I've been doing for 7 hours, teach me about 7 hours ago. And as I said, JRPGs, typically by hour 2, by hour 3, you've learned how the game works. Hour freaking 7 was when I finally had my party together. When I was finally ready to go out there into the world and actually fully start exploring it, moving from one place to the next. Oh my god, it was just too much. And as I said, it's a JRPG, and it follows some massive JRPG tropes. I had some people describe this game to me as being just some anime bullshit. Here's the thing. I like anime bullshit. I'll admit it. Having crazy action sequences with weird Japanese music blaring in the background and someone makes a speech about friendship and how that's going to save the day. I love that stuff. Yeah, I know it's repetitive. I know we've seen it 1,000 times over. What can I say? I'm a simple man. I know what I like. I like that weird anime bullshit. And this game is a lot of weird anime bullshit. And sometimes I like that. Like when you first get your big sword, Pyra, the big legendary persona that you got. Yes, again, I know they're not called personas, but I'm just going to keep calling them that. When you get your persona Pyra, and then you start charging in there and screaming and fighting this guy. Holy cow! That was the kind of anime bullshit I love. That's awesome. And then you have a dragon come in there and save the day. That is tons of fun. It's exactly what I love in this stuff. But then there'd be other stuff in there in which you would have your main character saying, we'll save the day with the power of friendship. And I'm like, that's the kind of thing you say after your 60-hour quest is over. When you're at the very tail end of this game and you've all united and come together. You're saying that with brand new characters you met. It feels like someone just went, I don't know, what do anime characters say? This? Alright, just put it in there. Or also, you meet this little inventor guy who joins the team. Okay, you know that trope of how there's going to be some weird, annoying animal-style sidekick in an anime thing, and they're always the most annoying character? Oh my god, this guy puts all the other contenders in that category to shame. I didn't even want to put the Japanese audio on this one. The English audio, it's pretty bad for half these characters. As I said, half the characters I actually kind of like the audio on. I actually think they did a decent job. Although I will say the lip syncing is awful in this game. It's the worst I've seen in any modern day video game. They didn't even try in here. People would say entire sentences as their characters' mouths were closed. But aside from that, I do like about half the voice actors in here. But the other half are so bad, I couldn't even stand to listen to the ones I did like in this game. And then you run into this little animalistic inventor character, and it's not his fault. The voice actor was doing what he was told, but these characters have a weird speech pattern to them, and it was just so bizarre. I couldn't get into it. I just couldn't deal with it. And what makes this game worse is that I started cramming through this game because I was like, okay, I know it's a JRPG, it's got a slow start, but as soon as it gets to that point where the world opens up and I'm free to do whatever I want, and I've learned all the tutorials, after it gets to that point, I can see what the game is really like, and I can finally start to really experience this game. And at the same time that I was playing this game, I was also starting to play Tales of Berseria, because I do like the Tales of game, and it got pretty good reviews this year, so I was like, okay, you know what, maybe there's a chance it'll get on my best of the year list, maybe a character from there will get on my best of the year list, maybe something like that. But I really wanted to root for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I really wanted to hope that one would be the one that I really liked. So I put about 3 hours into Tales of Berseria. and I put 7 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I looked over at Tales of Berseria and went, okay, I've got some problems with you, but I'm really kind of digging you, and I think I could actually really enjoy this game, but I'm not going to be able to play more of you because I had to put 7 freaking hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 2 only to finally decide it ain't happening. I'm not really enjoying this. I might enjoy it when I come back to it, but at the moment, that 7 hours was not worth it. And I just keep thinking, if I had taken those 7 hours, picked them up, and plopped them into Tales of Berseria, a game that shares many similarities with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but does those things so much better, I would be about 10 hours into Tales of Berseria, and I might be like, yeah, I see exactly what this game is like. I know all the stuff in this game. I know these characters. I can definitely use them for my end of the year list that I'm doing about video games. Maybe a character from here will be on there, or maybe a moment from this game will be on there, or maybe the game itself will be on there. Oh my gosh. I feel like I just wasted 7 hours, and it cost me enjoyment that I could have had in another game. But again, just to kind of end this on a high note, I do plan on returning to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Maybe we'll do it on Twitch so that I'll have a motivation to finish this game, but there is so much in this game that looks like it could be fun. Like, there's a whole catalog that you get of all the different Persona characters that you can summon out in this game, and I was looking at the silhouettes for them, and they all look so darn cool, and I love stuff like that. I love searching around and gathering up summons, have ever since it was a thing in the Final Fantasy games. So I really want to get into that part of the game, and I really want to meet all the other characters in this game, because as I said, I actually like about half the characters in this game. But, you know, it's a weird mixed bag, because some of the characters I think have a good design, but they have terrible voice actors, or some of the characters I think actually have pretty decent voice actors, like Pyra, but then they have awful character designs. I mean, oh my god, Pyra! Who on earth put you together? Why are you wearing that? I'm sorry, but I know a lot of people point at this game and point at the weird snow character that comes into the game later on and said, that's some of the worst character design I've seen. If that character was not in this game, people would be pointing at Pyra and saying, what the heck were you thinking with this character? She so just looks like what a joke version of an anime character is, that it's not even funny. But okay, that's enough of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Let's get into the last big title that I'm going to talk about in today's episode. And it's a title that you guys have been asking me about all year round, but I just didn't get the chance to talk about. It's, of course, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I didn't get a chance to say anything about this game all year long, and it's been frustrating me so much, because when this game came out, I dove into it, I was really enjoying it, and then some other games came out that I was really waiting on. You can probably guess which one. And I dropped everything to go into that. And then after I finished that, I moved on to another game, and then on to another game, and then on to some other stuff, and then on to some other stuff. And I just never got a chance to return to this game. I stopped playing it before I even got to the first Guardian. So when it came time for me to start cramming all these games and do my end of the year stuff, finally got a chance to go back to it, and dear God, this is an amazing game. This really is great. I loved it when I started playing it, but then when I picked it back up, I got super frustrated because I forgot how all the controls worked, and I was long past all the tutorial stuff. So there was a lot of me just dying for the first day of me picking this game back up. But that was also partly because this is not a game where you just run out there and just start saving the day. This is a game where you have to take your time. The world that they created for this is big and vast and beautiful, and if you want to succeed, you have to actually go out there and actually explore. And I love that this game lets you do that. I love that this game has no path for you. And that is both a positive and a negative in some ways if you're not willing to learn the lesson of, hey man, just chill and explore. But before I talk about that, let's talk about how the game begins. And as I said with Mario, yeah, it's kind of great that Super Mario Odyssey came in here and took the stuff that we liked about Mario, but made it new again. They realized they had kind of been repeating themselves, so they did some stuff to actually make that game feel new. No game did that better this year than Breath of the Wild. Because I like Zelda. I really do. But I feel like every single Zelda game since Ocarina of Time has been trying to redo Ocarina of Time. It's been trying to do, well, this is how it worked in that game, let's do it in this game as well. And there eventually gets to a point in which you want to scream, I know how to do all this stuff. I've done it multiple times. I don't want to go on a massive quest just to learn how to use the bow. I know how to use the damn bow. This game, there is no bullshitting in this game. It's just, hey, you're awake? Guess what? You're Link. Yeah, you know Link. You know how he fights Ganon? How he saves the Princess Zelda? Get to it. That's what you do. Oh, you need your weapons? Well, I guess you gotta go on a big quest, one by one to get them. Nope, here's the Sheikah Slate. Sheikah Slate, it's got your bombs. It's got 2 types of bombs. And it's got brand new abilities. That's all of your abilities. When I picked this game back up after being gone from it for so long, and I finally got to my first boss, I was getting frustrated and dying at that boss so many times because I kept thinking to myself, okay, what did I get in this dungeon? What did I grab in the dungeon? Because in every Zelda game, you get a weapon in the dungeon, and you're supposed to use that weapon against the boss. I was thinking in that terms. You're not supposed to think that way. Every single thing you need to defeat every single boss in the game, you get right at the beginning of the game. Now it's all on you. That is an ingenious new way of doing this. In fact, in the first dungeon I went to, which was the water level one, the way that you get the map to control the level is by using an ice block to lift a gate, and I kept running around and getting frustrated at that so much because I was like, I gotta be able to open the gate somehow. Where's the thing that I shoot? Where's the little eye thing that I shoot? Where's the new weapon that I get in this level that I use to now open up this doorway? Clearly that's how it works. Nope, the thing you got at the beginning of the game is what you use throughout the rest of the game. As I said, no bullshitting in this game. And that's not even the worst of it. There's so many other moments throughout this game in which I was just losing my mind and grinding my teeth and getting so frustrated at how I kept dying over and over again because I was not thinking about the tools I already had. Like when I had to get onto the giant elephant creature and I had to dodge all of these ice blocks. I didn't just have to dodge them, I had to fight these ice blocks off. And I kept shooting them with arrow after arrow after arrow until I used up all my arrows, and then I had to move on to my special arrows, and I was ticked that I was wasting all of them, and then I had to use my actual weapons and just try and smack the ice away, and I was losing my mind at, and then I was watching someone's gameplay of that same level, and they just took out the Sheikah Slate, had the little ice app come up, and just used that ability to break all the ice cubes in the air. They didn't waste any resources on it, they just used the item they were given at the beginning of the game, and I just looked at that and went, I'm an idiot. I'm the world's biggest dumbass. So many of the things I got frustrated in this game could simply be solved if you just stopped and thought about. Stopped and took your time. Like when I was making my way to the water level, to the land of the Zora, so that I could challenge the first Guardian. This was after I picked the game back up, and I had to finish that game so that I could talk about it here at the end of the year, and I was like, nope, no time to do any shrines or anything like that. I gotta race through, I gotta do this, gotta get this game done, and I was being one-shotted by Keese, the little tiny bats that take one hit to die, the simplest character in any Zelda game ever. Your most basic beginner level villain in a Zelda game was one-shotting me as I was going and trying to reach the next level, because that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to shrines. You're supposed to go to shrines, play in those shrines, get your hearts, get your stamina up, get your armor upgraded. That's an amazing thing you can do in this game, going to the Great Fairies. I love that the Great Fairies, they change with every single game and what they do. This is the best thing that they can do. The fact that they actually upgrade your armor, and if you get a matching set of armor, it gives you some brand new ability. Man, I was racing around trying to find items. I do think that they don't give you enough ways to get coins in this game, rupees, I should say. So that actually is a complaint that I'm going to hold on to throughout this entire game. I do think there need to be more ways to give you rupees. However, there are ways to get rupees. I did eventually end up paying off every single one of those Great Fairies because I wanted to level up my armor as much as I could. And holy cow, once you've gotten a couple new heart containers from these shrines, once you have gotten your armor upgraded, it is day and night how you play this game. I mean, you don't get any experience points from fighting villains. So there is no classical form of grinding in this game. There is no, well, if I just keep going and fighting these characters over and over and over again, then I guess eventually I'll get stronger. That gets boring in every game out there. There's no game in which grinding is fun except for this game. Because in this game, grinding is not fighting villains over and over and over again. Grinding is finding a shrine, doing the unique challenge inside that shrine, then getting your little spirit orb. Once you've gotten 4 of them, you get another heart. Then you have to go out there and explore, and when you find a great fairy, then you can use all those items you've gathered along the way, all that stuff you've been picking up that you thought were just going to be junk and you weren't going to use it all. Then you use that to make your armor stronger. That is so much fun, and it makes such a difference so quickly. It is not just the boring repetitive, alright, I'm going to slay this moblin over and over and over again. Oh, now I went up a level, now I guess I'm a little bit stronger. But now it's going to take so much more work to level up to the next level. Alright, gotta just keep grinding and grinding and grinding. Nope, this one is figure out this puzzle, now you're stronger. Go to this great fairy, now you're stronger. Do the work, take your time, think things through, you get stronger. And this game does reward you so much for just exploring the world. You have to go to the 4 Guardians. If you go to the 4 Guardians, then you can actually, get them to power you up in the final battle, and you get all their abilities, and that's a ton of fun. However, the 4 Guardians are only 4 spots on this massive, giant map, but there is something in every single spot on this map to discover. I went somewhere way up in the top right corner of the map and discovered a guy who could give me the best armor in the entire game. You didn't have to do that. There's no Guardian up there. Ganon's not up there. But if you explore, you get rewarded. And speaking of the Guardians, I have to also talk about the champions, and also the modern day version of the champions, all their little descendants that you end up meeting throughout the game. I loved every single one of those characters. I wish I had gotten to spend more time with them. I know there is DLC for the champions. I am going to go and play that because, yeah, I just want to experience more of the history of these champions. Every single one of them was so fun and so memorable, and I love all the abilities that they give you. When I went to finally actually face Calamity Ganon at the end of this, which again, I love that this game didn't have to sit down and go, here's who Ganon is, and oh, here's the dark evil plan that he has. They come in here and go, you know who Ganon is. He won. That's the premise of this game. Ganon won. He's a big monster. He's at the center of this map. Go and fight him when you're ready. Make sure you're ready. But when I actually went and fought Calamity Ganon, and then I saw all 4 of the Guardians just power up and go, alright, this is it. Fire on him. And half of Ganon's life was just obliterated in one shot. It made me look at that like, oh shoot, that's my squad. That's my team coming in here to save the day. And then there gets to that point when you're fighting Calamity Ganon in which he turns invincible, and the only way that you can get him to not be invincible is to A, reflect his attacks right back at him, so you could do that, or you could do the lightning attack that one of the champions gives you, or the little shield counter attack that another Guardian gives you. Those will knock him out of invincibility mode, and I just kept looking at that like, this is like these guys here with me. I went on these big quests to find the secret history of my friends, regain all the memories of my friends, and now they're here with me in spirit form, fighting side by side. I was just talking about Xenoblade Chronicles and how it didn't know how to do the whole anime, oh, my friends are fighting with me thing. This game knew how to do that. Now, I will get into some slight complaints that I had about this game. As I was mentioning at the beginning of this episode in which I was talking about the Nintendo Switch's motion controls, there's some games it works great for. Yeah, they were really freaking frustrating in this game. That was a little bit upsetting. You can kind of tell that this was a game that was made for the Wii U or for the Switch when it's actually in your hands and you're not playing it on TV with the loose controls. It's when you can actually look at the little screen in your hands and tilt everything right there. So yeah, that got a little bit frustrating at times. Also, as I said, I think they do need to make easier ways for you to earn rupees in this game. And also I'll say that I love the boss fights in Zelda games. The boss fights in the Zelda games have always been so iconic, and it's partly because the design of the bosses has always been so unique and memorable. I think the boss designs in here are pretty lame. It's basically the one same boss over and over again, just stretched out or buffed up in different ways. And yeah, that got really old really fast for me. It wasn't quite as cool as the previous bosses from Zelda games. I will say Calamity Ganon was actually pretty cool as well, but that's because he was kind of like the amalgamation of all those things you've been fighting all throughout this game. So it kind of worked for him. But for all the ones you were fighting up until then, yeah, they weren't that memorable. It was just kind of a clump of stuff all put together. But the big complaint that I had with this game, the thing that made me rage at this game so much at times, was just the controls. It really drove me nuts that in order to crouch, you had to click down on the left joystick. Because at moments when I would be in combat with a boss, mainly the lightning version of Ganon, I can't remember his name, but you know the one I'm talking about. This guy was actually ranked in some polls I saw as the toughest boss in any game of the year, because he is so freaking cheap. He moves at lightning speed, and when he attacks you, you drop all your weapons, and you're stunned, so he can then just come in there and attack you again. It is so cheap how that guy fights, and to make it worse, when I begin really into the fight and be like, okay, I gotta get this right, I gotta make sure that I'm focusing, I would then accidentally press down on the left stick too hard, and suddenly I'm crouching! Suddenly I'm just crouching, and I'm moving slow, and I can't jump, and I'm just stuck there, and I wouldn't realize what was happening until it was too late, and he'd be right on top of me, and it would drive me so nuts, and you would also have to then run and jump out of the way in order to time stuff just right with this guy, and the fact that the jump button is underneath, that the jump button is above the run button, that to me doesn't make any sense at all. To me, the jump button, if you're going to have the run button and the jump button on that 4-button setup, they should be right next to each other. They should not be up and down. They should be down and then either left or right, because that way you can then have your thumb on the run button and then roll your thumb over the jump button. The fact that in order to do this, in order to do a running jump, I would then have to time it perfectly so that I would be running, then quickly move my thumb from the run button up to the jump button, or do what I ended up doing throughout this entire game, which is just crab clawed. I would have my thumb on the run button and then my index finger just like a crab claw up there at the top on the Y button just to make sure that I could jump as well. It was such an uncomfortable way to hold that controller in order to make that work for me. And also, the lock-on ability in this game, I feel like, is more limited than in any other Zelda game. Maybe I'm just viewing this with nostalgia glasses. Maybe I am not thinking about this accurately, but in previous Zelda games, wasn't it so that if you just hit the lock-on button, your character would then just turn around and face whatever the creature is you're trying to lock onto? In this one, you would have to use the camera and find the creature yourself. It would not instantly locate it for you, and then you would have to be standing really darn close in order to find it. In the previous one, you could lock onto stuff from all the way across the screen. I would have to be within striking distance of some of these characters in order to face them, and when you take all of that and put it together, it made some of these boss fights so frustrating. The final 2 bosses I fought, hey, they were fairly easy because I had powered myself up enough at that point. But when I was fighting that Thunder version of Ganon, the one that everybody thinks is so frustrating, all these jumbled controls just came together and it drove me nuts. I have never raged at a game more than this. I was losing my mind. I wish I had captured the audio from this fight, but I didn't. So instead, I'm just going to put in here Ego Raptor screaming out, "I am not okay," from that classic episode of Game Grumps.
I am not okay!
Yep, that was it. That was me at like 4 a.m. in the morning, waking up the entire neighborhood, just screaming that in anger. But I will say, after about 20 hours of playing this game, I was able to get used to these controls. I did keep doing the crab claw technique all throughout it, and I do think that's a problem. I think a far simpler way of doing this game is, rather than having the crouch button be the left trigger, the run button be the bottom button, and the jump button be the top button, make the jump button the bottom button, and then make the run button the left trigger, and then make the crouch button the top button, because you will crouch far less in this game than you will run and jump. And also, you're not going to be running and jumping while crouching, so you can just press the crouch button and not have to worry about those other buttons at that moment. Then if you need to run, just press down on the left trigger, and then your thumb is free to press that bottom button to jump whenever you want or attack whenever you want. To me, that makes way more sense for the layout of these controls, but unfortunately, they give you no way to change the controls in this game. I was looking for any way to change these controls around, and there was a moment at my most frustrated when I saw in the options menu something that said, change jump button, and I went, oh thank God, I can assign the jump button to whatever I want it to be. This will make things so much easier. No, if you select that, it just changes the jump button from the top button and the run button from the bottom button and swaps them. So I'm still having to do the stupid crab claw technique. So yes, I just had to get that out of my system. I felt like the controls could be frustrating from time to time, and I felt like there was a much easier way to have the controls set up. I wish they would at least let you choose how you wanted to have them set up. And also, I did feel like the bosses had unoriginal designs, and this was coming from a franchise that was known for having great, unique boss designs. But aside from that, I have zero complaints with this game. I applaud so much for changing up the Zelda style so much, but at the same time, capturing what a Zelda game should be. This still feels like a Zelda game while being completely different from the past couple Zelda games, which is exactly what they needed to do with this franchise. I love that this game realized, you guys know what all this is by now. Quit the bullshit and just get you out there into the world. And they just put you out there in the world. And I love how much stuff there is to do in this game. I love how much stuff there is to collect. I love how many shrines there are to find. I love all the towers that you have to climb up and map out this entire world. I love all the fairies you have to find. By the way, the fairies are great in here. I love the design of each of the fairies. I thought they were so unique and so much more lively and full of life than the previous couple designs that we've gotten. So much more unique, too. Like, I can't even remember what the past couple fairy fountains would look like. These fairies I'm going to remember. But also all the lost memories you had to find. I went out of my way to search for a couple of them, but some of them I would just stumble upon. And whenever I would stumble upon them, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just happened to find this. It made it feel like I had actually uncovered something special while just exploring the world. And also the way that you find the Master Sword in here. You gotta go through a maze to find that thing, and then even after you find it, the Great Deku Tree will tell you, if you pick that up and you're not strong enough, you will die. You have to be tough enough to find that thing. And I kept grinding until I was able to get strong enough. And when I picked that sword up, not knowing how many hearts I needed, I just saw it counting down and counting down and counting down. And I was just watching there and just holding my breath. And when I finally pulled it out, it was one of my favorite moments from any game this year. And it feels like you actually get rewarded for getting that sword, because so many of the weapons in here, they would frustrate me when they would break. And I was going to put that as a negative, that the swords break way too easily in this game, that you would go up against a boss and you would go through like 5 or 6 swords trying to fight that thing. It would get so frustrating. But then when you get the great sword, and it's so powerful, and its life lasts for so long before it has to recharge, it made that feel so much more rewarding, and I was actually okay with all the weapons breaking that easily, because it made this payoff so big. But yeah, it's incredible, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but for the next Zelda game, I just kind of want a sequel to this world. This is a great world you set up, with amazing characters. I would love to just see what happens with these characters now in this world without Ganon. That is my other one complaint about the Zelda franchise. Give me some new villains. That's all I need now. I just need some new villains, which I get why Ganon was in this. I get it, and I do love that they approach Ganon in this game as, you know who Ganon is, we don't have to set it up, go stop Ganon. I'm totally cool with that. So I'm not complaining about just fighting Ganon again in this game. I'm just saying, if you wanted to keep these characters around and keep this world around and let me keep exploring this world with these characters, just give me someone new to fight and I'll totally be cool with it. Give me some new villain and I will totally applaud the idea of a sequel to this game. But there we go. That is all the games I've played for Nintendo this year. Just to sum up again, this is one of the greatest turnarounds I've ever seen for a company in just the span of a single year. And with so many third-party games now trying to break down Nintendo's door to be a part of this console, I cannot wait to see what comes next year. So, thank you guys for tuning in. As I said, we have 2 more of these little look back 2017 retrospectives at all the games that came out. So if you want to see those, then make sure you click that subscribe button. And remember, we're also going to be doing the top 10 characters, the top 10 moments, the top 10 villains, top 10 boss fights, top 10 games. A whole bunch of video game based top 10s are coming up in the next couple weeks. So if you want to see any of those, make sure that you click that subscribe button. And again, this is still something kind of new on this channel. We talk about video games on this channel, but we typically do it in a more structured format. We typically don't just have me sitting up here just spouting out my thoughts into a microphone. So if you are enjoying this and you want to see more stuff like this, then just tell me in the comments down below or follow me on Twitter and Twitch at Professor Thorgy and let me know there. Thank you guys for tuning in. Come back next time.